Yo, yo, yo. What is up, guys? Hope you can hear me clear. We don't got the pop filter on. I'm not sure if it makes like a huge difference, but um, I'm gonna turn that bad boy around. I think it was backwards. Great start. But we're talking about UFC Sao Paulo. We got the Boomachino right here. I don't do it without it. Shout out to Shui hats right here for the fresh new hat. And brought to you by Unfazed, because we unfazed by the hatred and by the negativity out there. Stop that shit. um, yeah, so we got Jan Blachowicz versus Ronaldo Jacare coming up from 185 to 205. I thought he was a pretty well-sized 185er, so I'm interested to see how he stacks up size-wise. But we've seen guys move up before, and even with Jan Blachowicz, guys like Luke Rockhold, other guys like Chris Weidman moving up and not having so much success with these bigger guys. Maybe they're moving up thinking they might have the speed advantage or stylistically they have an advantage, but there's no guarantees. And Jan Blachowicz is a big guy for 205. He packs a lot of power. He's had some big knockouts. And Jacare, one thing that I will say is that his jiu-jitsu didn't look great in his last fight, but his boxing, his striking looked a lot better, a lot more improved than the Chris Weidman fight. So you know, I'm interested to see how he looks on the feet here because Jan Blachowicz is not like the fastest guy. He does have power and he does throw tricky hooks at weird angles, but Jacare is a pretty good striker, and I think he could have some success here. But I give the power and the finishing advantage to Jan Blachowicz. I just don't see where this fight will end up on the ground. Although Jan Blachowicz is pretty good at jiu-jitsu and he does have some submissions. Obviously, Jacare is the higher level competitor at jiu-jitsu, but can Jacare wrestle a bigger guy in Jan Blachowicz down to the ground? Can he advance? Can he get dominant position on the ground and submit him? Based off of Jacare's last fight, I just don't see that happening. We saw him on his back. We saw um what's the name of the guy he just fought? Why am I forgetting? Fucking drawing a blank here. Um, well, in his last fight, we saw that it was kind of like a blueprint on how to beat him. He was on his back and he really wasn't threatening much off of his back. So, that's not a good sign. But nonetheless, if I'm gonna make a pick here, I'm probably gonna go with Jan Blachowicz. I would say by decision. I don't know if he'll get the finish. Jacare is pretty durable, and yeah, he hasn't been finished by many guys, but his last fight just didn't show a lot of promise in where he's at in his career. He's getting older. He's fought the top guys. It's crazy that he hasn't had a title shot, but with a win over Jan Blachowicz, that'll put him right in line to mix up the division, to fight somebody, in a title contender fight or something along those lines. So we'll see what happens, but I got uh I got Blachowicz. Oh, Hermanson. That's who he fought last. Hermanson's a weird style though. He moves very in and out, jittery type movement. He's very tricky on the ground. So yeah, that fight though was kind of the blueprint right there if you want to beat Jacare. Uh Shogun Hua fighting in Brazil against Paul Craig. It's so hard to fight a Brazilian in Brazil. I'll just say that at first. But Paul Craig, I believe, taking this fight on short notice. Um, you can't count Paul Craig out. He submits guys with like 5 seconds left off his back in some of these fights with slick triangles. He always has the ability to finish the fight. But Shogun's gonna have the more devastating striking. We know this, and in Brazil, he's probably gonna be hyped to get a victory. Obviously, Shogun's been through wars, whereas Paul Craig has not in his career been through many wars like that. So that could play a factor in this fight. if I'm Paul Craig, I'm pushing Shogun against the cage. I'm trying to clinch up and make him work, make him, tire out his arms, give him that lactic acid where he slows down with the striking. Because Shogun Hua throws caution to the wind. He's throwing big hooks. He's trying to knock you out. He's got great leg kicks. So if I'm Paul Craig, I'm closing the distance. I'm trying to get the fight to the ground, and I'm trying to play it a little safe, and maybe look for a submission, get that takedown, and try to tire out Shogun. Um, Hard fight to pick, but I really do feel like Shogun's starting to fade. He's had some knockouts as of late. We saw Anthony Smith knock him out bad. I think these are starting to add up. And Paul Craig's still fairly new. He's not, he hasn't been knocked out like that. And I think that, he does have enough power in his hands to hurt Shogun. I just don't know if his striking level of technique is there to outstrike someone like Shogun. Um, but I do think Paul Craig will get it done. I think he'll be able to maybe get a submission, or maybe squeak out a decision. Kind of hard to see how, but if he could just use that grappling, that pressure, that cage control, and get a couple takedowns and stay on top for a little while, I think he can get it done. Going with Paul Craig. Charles Oliveira, Jared Gordon. This is a tough fight, man, for Jared Gordon. I mean, he's been fought at 145 before. Now I believe this fight's at 155. Charles Oliveira, same thing, but his body frame fits more at 155. The guy's long. He submits just about everybody. His jiu-jitsu is like one of the best in the division. Off his back, he's like the Damian Maya of the lightweight division. Very slick off his back. Although we did see Jared Gordon's teammate Paul Felder shut him down on the ground, but Paul Felder's a big lightweight. He's strong. He's fucking dangerous, and nothing against Jared Gordon. He's never been submitted, I believe. So this is actually an interesting factor in this fight because we haven't seen Gordon submitted, and he's fighting a guy who submits everybody pretty much. So Jared Gordon doesn't mind getting into the grappling exchanges. He does have a very good top pressure game at avoiding submissions at all costs. He's done that in his career. He has great ground and pound. Uh, his striking is up there. Not the best in the division, but he's a good striker. He's smart. He's got good head movement. But we have seen him finish before by TKO. Charles Oliveira is, he's no slouch on the feet as well. I would say obviously he's better on the ground, but he's pretty dangerous on the feet as well with his Muay Thai, his knees, his elbows. He cuts guys up. He's gonna have a big reach advantage in this fight, and I just feel at some point Jared Gordon might end up shooting a takedown just because of dealing with the reach and the frustration of getting maybe pieced up from the outside. I want to go Jared Gordon because I used to train with him. I enjoy his fight style, and I just think this is too much to handle for him. I think Charles Oliveira might get that first submission against Jared Gordon, who's never lost like that before. So I could see a second or third round submission. Although one thing I will say is a factor in this fight is cardio. Jared Gordon does not fade. He does not go away. You have to fucking kill that guy to break him. He's been through a lot with the drug challenges. I love his message and his purpose as a UFC fighter, and I hope he gets the win just because he deserves it. For what he's come through, and also for what he supports and his message towards people who are dealing with bigger things than just fighting. So, um, but Charles Oliveira does fade sometimes. If you can stay in there with him for 3 rounds and you go back and forth, that third round is where you can catch him slipping. He starts to die down a little bit. His cardio starts to fade, and if you're cracking him when he's tired, he can be beaten. So tough one to call, but I got Oliveira. Now we'll go down with some quick picks because a lot of these fights are not so, such big fights, such highlighted fights. Sao Paulo cards, usually are not stacked like that. We got Arroyo versus Andre Muniz. Muniz got a good amount more experience. I'm gonna go with Muniz by decision. Marcus Perez versus Wellington Turman. Marcus Perez, another Brazilian. He does pretty well in Brazil, I feel. And let's see who did he fight last? See, but he's coming off of a submission victory against Anthony Hernandez in his debut. So, that was a good win for him. And with that, I feel like with that momentum, that could be powerful for him in Brazil as well. So I'm going Perez by decision. Um, wait a second. Oh, okay, Kevin Holland. Yeah, he had to back out. He was supposed to be on the card, but that didn't happen. So moving down, disregard that bullshit. Uh Sergio Moraes versus James Krause. Now, James Krause is a very tricky striker. I like how he switches stances. He's also a coach, doing big things as a coach as well. And Mariah is a Brazilian fighter who is a tough guy to beat. He has good experience in the cage. He's had his ups and downs, wins and losses. I believe James Krause has been out of the cage for quite some time. When was the last time James Krause fought? Uh, Last year, yeah, in August was his last fight. He did win over Warley Alves, which is a tough guy to beat, man. Warley Alves is a beast at welterweight, and James Krause has fought at 155 in the past before too. He is coming off a couple wins, and to win KO TKO over Warley Alves is definitely a tough task. By the way, if you guys have any questions, leave them in the comment section. I'll get to them hopefully before the end of this. But we do this pretty quick, in and out, boom, bada bing. So get them in, and I'll get to them. Chill. Um, I'm gonna go with James Krause. Actually, I feel like he has the ability to avoid takedowns. Marias is better on the ground, but James Krause is more well versed on the feet. He's tricky. He's in and out. His stance switching, his angles are going to be the difference. So James Krause, maybe a late TKO. Don't mind my deviated septum. A little stuffed up today. Went for a swim this morning. Opened me up, but we're getting back to fucking clogged. I gotta wait till after fighting to get the surgery. Why get the surgery and then get punched back in the fucking nose? And then you're like, well, I gotta get it again. So it's not really worth it. So I'm just like, that side's better today. See? It's unbelievable. They switch. One day it's this side, one day it's this side. It's like my fucking personality. So they should have called me Sniffles. Brian Sniffles Kelleher. That should have been the nickname right there, I'll tell you that. Um, who else we got? Moving down on the card on the prelims, we got Ricardo Ramos and Luis Eduardo Garza. Uh, I was impressed with Luis in his last fight. He's a fast striker, man. He's undefeated. Ricardo Ramos has the more experience in the cage, but he is coming up from bantamweight. He was fighting at bantamweight. He beat Kang in his last fight, which was a very good win for him. Um, and Luis, I believe, won his debut. I believe he's 1-0 in the UFC, but he is undefeated. He hasn't been beaten. He's a decent size. Ricardo Ramos was big for bantamweight, though. He's a really tall guy, lengthy. So I don't think there's any kind of size or reach advantage in this fight. But if I had to pick, I think the fight will go the distance. I give the slight striking advantage to Luis Eduardo just by basic technique. But Ricardo Ramos, watch out for those spinning elbows, man. Because remember that fight against Zeman Sahabi? That guy threw the most vicious spinning elbow knockout. That was badass. I remember that. I was at that fight, and that shit was just loud. That was brutal. So watch out for the spinning techniques of Ramos. But I don't know. This one's a tough one too. I kind of want to lean Luis. My instinct is just saying, but just based off of what I saw on his debut, I just feel like he's a lot more fast on the feet and really good with accuracy, getting in and out with the strikes. I don't know if this fight will end up on the ground, but I think Ricardo Ramos, he didn't seem like the strongest guy at bantamweight either. I've seen him kind of get out strength by other guys, taken down a couple times. I think Kang took him down. So I'm gonna go Luis by decision. Trinaldo versus Bobby Green. Bobby Green always comes with that speed too, but he has his hands down. He's in and out. I believe he said he retired and now he's back. So whenever someone's iffy like that, you kind of have to swing the other way. You just don't know where his head's at. And Francisco Trinaldo's an old vet in the game. He's 41 years old. Bobby Green's 33. Both of these guys pretty equal. Everything else is virtually identical. Champ. So I don't know. Trinaldo, I thought he won that last fight too against Hernandez. That was a close fight, but Hernandez was like very lackluster, and nothing really outstanding by either guy, but I thought Trinaldo just edged out the decision. Bobby Green a little bit different though. I don't see him being hesitant. I think he's going to be faster. I think he's going to be a little bit more aggressive than obviously Hernandez was in that last fight. Trinaldo has power in his hands. He fights very technical. Doesn't really let his defense down much, and so you got to watch out for that. But fixing this webcam here, this shit is slipping on me. There you go. Well, uh, I got Bobby Green by decision. I just think he's gonna outstrike him with the speed. I think it's just gonna be a little bit too much. Um, Worley Alves, Randy Brown. Randy Brown, we've seen him, finish before on the ground by what's his name? The guy that's got the fucking broadest shoulders in the game. Well, he beat Brian Barberina last fight by KO. That's very impressive because Barberina is not an easy guy to finish. But he lost to Nico Price before that by KO, and that's what I was thinking. Have you ever seen Nico Price's shoulders, bro? His body's crazy. His shoulders are like blocks coming out of his side. Um, and so Randy Brown's up and down. He's probably he's a better striker than he is on the ground. But Worley Alves is got the power advantage in this fight, and fighting him in Brazil is going to be tough, man. I just feel like Worley Alves is going to be the bigger, stronger guy. He's going to have that power advantage, and I think he might be able to clip Brown. Although Brown is long, he's got really long legs. If he utilizes his kicks, it'll be hard to get inside on him. But I'm going with Worley Alves by TKO. Moving down. Bada bing boom. Oh man, Henan Barao is still in the fucking game. It's unbelievable. He's fighting Douglas Silva Andrade, and this time at featherweight. He's moving up to featherweight, trying to figure out what the fuck he's doing, what's gone wrong. Honestly, it's just his mind has not been the same. It seems, the way he's performing is just completely different. Some people, you know, some people say it's the supplements he was on before, when he was world champion, when Dana White was saying he's the one of the pound for pound best in the world. Then he went on a bad streak, including a loss to myself, which was one of my biggest highlights of my career. And I'll say when I was in there with Barao, he felt like a guy that was trying to win to me. But I didn't feel phased. I didn't feel phased. I felt unfazed in that fight. So, maybe it was me. I don't know. Maybe I was just better. Who knows? Maybe he was just, he fell off. TJ took his soul. All those things. You never know. You know what I'm saying? But wouldn't it I was thinking like the other night, like, wouldn't it be insane if Barao made a huge comeback? Like went on like a 4 or 5 fight win streak at featherweight and like got back, in the title talks and made a fucking resurrection, Jorge Masvidal style. Like, wouldn't that be the most insane resurrection comeback ever in UFC? Like, I don't even know who could have taken that big of a downfall and climb back up from it. Like, that would be insane. But I don't see that happening. Douglas Silva Andrade had a good fight against Peter Yan, although he was finished. Yan is a beast. He's running through pretty much everybody. By the way, if you're tuned in, how does my mic sound here? How's my volume sound? I just want to make sure everything's good because I'm not using the pop filter, but I want to make sure that this mic is crystal clear for you guys listening. I don't want to have any slip ups. So let me know that I sound good on here because I have been, 20 minutes deep and I really don't want to I don't want to hear that, you guys can't hear me. That would be quite the upsetting thing. Be really upsetting. Huh. But anyways, Douglas Silva Andrade is going to be faster. Boom. Thank you, Carl. Appreciate it. He's going to be the faster guy. He's going to be, both of these guys are pretty much gonna be the same size. I mean, I Douglas Silva Andrade was pretty damn big and ripped for 135. It looked like he was having terrible weight cuts too. I remember seeing him in that last fight when he fought Peter Yan, like while he was cutting weight, the guy's face is sucked out. He's shredded. He barely has any fat on his body to cut. So I don't. Maybe that was a big toll on him. I think. I think that yeah, I have to adjust the camera. I know. Thank you, buddy. Yeah, I think maybe the move to 145 is a good move for Andrade, and I think fighting Barao is probably a great chance for him to display his skills at 145. Let's not forget Andrade beat Marlon Vera. Marlon Vera has been on a tear at bantamweight, so he's still very much in the game, unlike Barao. So I'd be shocked if Barao wins this fight. I got Andrade by TKO. Probably get the finish, if not decision, but I see a finish. Ariana Lipski, Veronica Macedo. Macedo's taking this fight on short notice, I believe. Lipski's a pretty dangerous fighter, aggressive flyweight in the women's division. Both of these girls pretty good though. I remember Mercado had like a really impressive submission in her last fight. That was pretty big stuff, and we didn't expect that too. I think a lot of people expected her to lose that fight, so that was a good upset. She looked great in the fight too. She looked sharp, and I could see the same thing happening again. I'm gonna go with Macedo by submission in this fight. Uh, Vanessa Mello versus Tracy Cortez. Cortez is coming off the Contender Series, and you know I didn't think that that performance that she had on the Contender Series was anything standout. I didn't think, wow, this girl needs to be in the UFC. We got to see where she belongs. But she did well, and she's got a good matchup here to win for her debut. She's lacking experience, compared to Vanessa Mello, but she has only one loss on her record, and yeah, I most likely this fight goes to decision. You just got to be careful in Brazil. You got to make sure you really dominate. So I guess I would give Cortez the edge in the decision victory. Um, and that fight's canceled, so forget that. Now let's talk some new matchups coming up. Man, first comes first, Frankie Edgar versus Corey Sandhagen. I'm excited to see this fight, man. We didn't know what was going to happen. They were trying to book Frankie Edgar versus Sterling. Sterling had the surgery. So obviously, Edgar was trying to move down to 135 and get a fight soon. They're trying to insert him where either he wins and he's right there for a title shot, or he loses and they build an up and comer prospect like Sandhagen off of Edgar's name. I lean more towards that. This is a favorable matchup for Sandhagen as far as reach goes. The guys looked amazing as of late, beating Lineker, finishing a lot of fights. His fight against his debut fight where he was in big trouble and got out of it and was putting a beating on I can't believe I can't believe I'm drawing a blank because this is the guy I beat in my debut. Um Alcantara. Yeah, that fight was so impressive because in his debut he was able to display his heart and his durability to escape that submission and to be able to finish Alcantara like that was really impressive. Also, having been in there with John Lineker and dealing with that tough task, seeing Sandhagen able to kind of shut him down, I thought the fight was pretty close, but Sandhagen fought a very smart fight, and you got to stay sharp in there from start to finish against John Lineker because the guy's trying to fucking take your head off. You know, so very impressive stuff from Sandhagen, and this is obviously his biggest test to date. Frankie Edgar. The one thing I will say is Lineker took Sandhagen down towards the end, and Lineker is not known for his wrestling. So if I'm Frankie Edgar, I'm getting in Sandhagen's face early, although it's very hard to uh, cut the cage off against Sandhagen. He moves laterally very, very nice and very fast, and his jab is so long that he fucking he annoys guys with his reach. He's huge for the weight class as far as his frame and his length goes, his reach. But if I'm Edgar, I'm getting inside with that boxing and that mixing up those takedowns early, and I'm pushing him against the cage. I'm getting the takedown. I'm trying to ground and pound. And we've seen Edgar beat guys like Yair Rodriguez like that, where he just kind of dominates with the takedowns and the ground and pound, passing guard. Edgar's a black belt on the ground. Sandhagen's no slouch on the ground, but if the fight does hit the ground, I give the big advantage to Edgar. I think if he stays on top, he could win this fight. He has to just keep that pressure, get inside, and get on top of Sandhagen. I just don't know if that's the case. His last fight against a taller, rangier fighter like Holloway, didn't go well for him. He didn't look his best in that fight, although Holloway's been on top of the game. He's been a world champion for years, so you can't really say that. I mean, you can't really measure him up with Sandhagen, but style wise, you can kind of compare the two, I guess. Volume strikers, tall, lengthy, very good movement. I give the slight edge to Sandhagen in this fight. He's just a younger, fresher fighter. He's undefeated in the UFC, and he's just a hard puzzle to figure out. Nobody's figured him out yet, and he's been very impressive. So I feel like the fight goes the distance. Neither of these guys. Edgar's so hard to fucking finish. I mean, the guy's been rocked over and over in his career, and he doesn't go away. In fact, he fights harder. So uh, I give the decision victory to Sandhagen right now, but we'll be back talking about this fight when it gets closer. That's just my instinctual choice right now. Um, Carlos Condit, unfortunately, out of that fight with Mickey Gall. We'll see who they book him against. It's been an interesting career for Mickey Gall to see who they book. Seems like they just keep booking him against the guys that are like kind of faded out a little bit. And trying to give him those winnable fights that build his name type thing. So we'll see what they do next with him. We got Razor Blades versus Junior Dos Santos. That's a big fight in the heavyweight division right there. I like that fight, because Dos Santos is gonna have that boxing advantage, but man, Curtis Blades fucking just smothers guys, and his ground and pound is second to none in the heavyweight division. He's got great cardio, he's got amazing wrestling, and if he takes you down and he starts working that ground and pound and he outpositions you, you're in trouble. But Dos Santos is a hard guy to hold down. I'll say that. So interesting matchup there stylistically. Who else we got? What other new matchups we got? We got yeah, they booked Macy Barber versus Roxanne Modafferi. Interesting booking here. I feel bad for Roxanne. Roxanne, you don't gotta put on a red light. She got to put on the fucking red light against Macy Barber, because Macy Barber's a beast. Her last fight against Jillian Robertson, man, she just went straight forward at her, was throwing hands left and right nonstop, like 20 punch combination, just brutalized her. And Roxanne gets hit a lot, she does have a great ground game. She does have good experience, but she gets hit too much, man. And Macy Barber's a powerhouse, so obviously leaning towards Macy. That's that for matchups. New matchups being booked. OSP versus Ryan Spann. That's a good fight in the light heavyweight division. Ryan Spann, an up and coming guy doing big things. He had a really big win in his last fight. Um, yeah, that's that. We'll be back. Maybe we'll do a recap of Sao Paulo, or really looking forward to that December 14th card, man. That's gonna be fucking crazy. I can't wait to see all those fights. Um, Thanks for tuning in. Eva Bailey, I appreciate it. Thanks for the kind words. If you guys give a thumbs up, that'd be great. That would really be helpful. Also, subscribe to my channel. We need to up the subscribers. Where the boomerangs at? Where's my boom fans at? Um, but yeah, we'll be back. Follow me on Instagram and Twitter at Brian Boom 135. I'm trying to make the rounds. I've been with Lynch on sports at the score. Appreciate him having me on. Me and Chuck Mindenhall did the athletic. So Boom's making the rounds. I'm trying to get my name out there in the media, because that would be something I would love to do after fighting. Although, don't count me out, motherfuckers, because I'm back in January, looking like Vegas, January 18th, and I am eager to erase my last fight. And if you think you want to judge me based off the last performance that I had, I think that's a mistake. I'm coming to fucking kill. This is the last fight on my contract. Pressure makes diamonds, baby. Boom.